There's a good girl. This beautiful bat is a Noctua, intelligent, clever, flies fast, can fly high, the height of 3 oak trees. She was found in London, in Knightsbridge, and somebody found her on a pavement. She was a young bat, and I think she hit a London bus. She was slightly damaged and very insecure, and it took a long time to mend the tears in her wings and the wounds on her back. She's a wonderful education bat. She goes around schools and meets children and helps people in the bat world understand what a Noctua looks like. You'll notice the short coat. The ears are rounded. All the fingers are folded back when they're not flying. The little thumb with the curved nail on the end is used for climbing. Each little toe is of the same length, so it's easy for them to hang up. The membrane goes round over the fingers, round the body, and over the tail. The tail's very important because it helps them to steer and twist and turn and zoom. Bats rest in the daytime to save energy. The temperature lowers, the breathing slows down, the heartbeat slows down, their bodies get quite cold. They have to raise the body temperature by shivering and pumping their heart. And when they're ready and hot enough, like revving up a car engine, they automatically begin to use their sonar. Handling bats is not rocket science. You just have to be calm, relaxed, and very gentle. And then they feel quite safe. A bat straight from the wild is just like this. You have to say with your body language that my hand is a home for you to snuggle into. It's not a prison. By being calm and relaxed, they will immediately feel safe. And they're very happy and they love to be stroked and cuddled. There are people like me who rescue bats in trouble, make them better and get them back to the wild. Every county has a bat hospital. Any bat in the open in the daytime is in trouble. They'll scoop him up in a handkerchief, take him home, put him in a box, and then contact a bat person. Here, Millie, good girl. I call her Millie because she came from millets. And here she is. There's a good girl. And I've wrapped them, makes them feel really comfortable. And this is a whiskered bat. They're still flying with old plates on up to 2 or 3 years and doing daft things. And it doesn't take much for them to lose their confidence. So Millie is feeling a little bit insecure and a little bit worried, a bit underweight. So my job is, having checked her over she's fine, is to get her to relax and feed, put on weight, then I'll test fly her and see if she can go back home. They can't drink until you've warmed them up, but in the nice warm tissue, and I'm gently going to open out the wing to see how it is. That's a good girl. Check all's well. And there's the wing. She's quite happy. Me resting it on the tissue. That's the elbow, forearm, wrist, little claw is the thumb, and those are the fingers. That's it. And all looks well. And I'm going to check the shoulder, make sure it wasn't damaged, being caught under the door. So I'm going to release it. Oh, that pings back beautifully. Nothing wrong with that. You see how the membrane is attached to the little foot. It goes round the body and over the tail. That's how they steer. See how the shoulder is? That's perfect. She's putting the toes on my finger. Both working fine. Now let's have a look at the tail, because the bat can't fly if the tail is damaged. Gently unroll the tail. Yes, that's fine. No problem there. The sonar they use automatically when they're wide awake, which plays a very important role at night to help them find their way around and detect the insects. And their social voice when they're chatting to each other. So when your ears can hear it, as Millie was talking to me, chatter, 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 that's the social communication. I'm very gently going to feel down the back, little half circles. I'm checking and feeling for any hematomas to check that the collarbone's all right. If it's broken, it would stick into my finger. I need to feel over the ribs to see if any of the ribs were broken in her accident under the door. It should be absolutely equal both sides. And down over the pelvic area. I know the lower spine's all right, because otherwise the leg would be paralysed. All's well. Check the eyes are all right. Stroke between the ears to look at her little pearly whites. Yes, the teeth are in good care. That's it. Matting could be dried blood, or it could be glue, or cat saliva, or dried mud. Bats don't like going upside down, so I have to be very gentle with her and make sure that we have no matting on the fur, on the tummy. There. Millie has no injuries. She's definitely underweight, so she has to stay with me. I have to take a mealworm and I have to behead it. Look away if you're squeamish. And then I have to squeeze the juices. Think of it as an ice cream. Sometimes when they're dehydrated, they run out of saliva. So I have to offer them a drink as well. Would you like a little bit of moisture on that? Oh yes, that makes it go down much easier. She's got to put on quite a few more grams yet. I like to feel the spongy fat down her back. In the wild, the bats are feeding up manically, because they're preparing for winter. In here, I've got some juvenile pipistrelle bats who I hand-reared this year. Some came to me having been abandoned by their mother. And these are juveniles. I had to continue feeding with milk and mealworms. They're fully grown. They don't fly well enough. They're too frightened to fly. They haven't learned all the skills from Mummy. These ones are Pipistrellus pipistrellus, known as the common pipistrelle. They have black faces. We've got the largest personality of all the bats. We're brave, we're gutsy, we've got a sense of humour, and we love flying. And they'll eat about 3,000 midges and mosquitoes and small flies in a night. So these little chaps are your friends. You want them whizzing around your garden. And here we have two brown long-ears. These ones are moth specialists. Now moths are clever. They can hear a bat coming, and some species close their wings, drop to the ground and scuttle away. Some moths have learnt how to echolocate themselves to detect a bat coming, and some moths have learnt how to make a horrible noise to jam the echolocation and confuse the bats. So a long time ago, these beautiful little bats came up with two cunning plans. One was to whisper the echolocation through that delicate little pink upturned nose, so Mr. Moth couldn't hear them coming. But in order to hear the soft whispering echo as it bounced back, they've had to grow gigantic ears, and if I gently wake him up, he'll show you his beautiful ears. There. When they're flying, the long ears lift up, rotate, and are flung forward. They catch the sound and guide it onto the little ear at the base called the tragus, and the brain of the bat will translate the sound so they understand what's happening all around. There's a row of little hairs along the edge of the big ear, which picks up the vibrations of the insect as it's moving around. They've grown large, dark eyes. They can see in the dark. So when they've detected the moth, they flutter and hover near it, then switch the sound off and look and listen. Hover over the moth, and with those gigantic feet and long curved toenails, they'll grab the moth and take it to their favourite feeding perch. They can live up to 40 years. Bats generally are divided into the two groups, gleaners and hawkers. Now the hawking bats are very fast, streamlined bodies, long narrow wings, coming out at twilight. Oak trees are some of the best trees you can possibly have for producing a great variety of different insects, and bats love them. Beech trees are a great favourite too. The hawking bats, they need to drop 6 foot where they come out and be clear of foliage for fast exit and entry. Whereas the very shy bats, like the brown long-eared and the rare barberstraw and the Bechstein, they flutter and hover under the vegetation, under the canopy, hidden secretly. What I have learned over all these years is that if you listen very carefully to the bat and watch the body language, it will tell you loud and clear what's wrong with it. And that's what I try and do. These are the beautiful brown long-eared bats. They are so amazing, these bats. These are gleaner bats. They're master gleaner bats. And these ones specialise in living on moths. They love moths. But moths are clever and have learnt how to interfere with the echolocation sound of bats. So they can block it. And they can also take evasive action and dive out the way. Now, these little guys have been living a very long time, and they've come up with these 2 cunning plans. And with their wide, broad wings and their wide tail membrane, they hover and flutter over the flowers, over the water, looking for Mr. Moth. And when they've located him, and also the little row of hairs along the edge of the ear will pick up the vibrations of the moth. So having located it, they hover over the moth, getting lower and lower. And then with those enormous feet, big feet, long toenails, curved toenails, they'll grab the moth and fly with it to their favourite feeding perch. They're woodland bats. They like normally to live in nooks and crannies in trees, but will always use your attic or loft as a maternity roost because it's safe and it's all big yawn and warm. When they fly, it always amuses me. When you see them close up, their ears are flung forward like that because they're echolocating. The one with the ears up has warmed its body up and is curious. If I had my bat detector on, you'd hear what she was saying. She's echolocating now through her nostrils, but you can't hear it. The other one's a bit sleepy and can't be bothered. Because, you know, these bats live over 40 years. It's purely incredible. Look at that interaction between the 2. They're so sweet together. Well done. There's a good girl. That's all right, Sophie. Mummy's here. Good girl. The Serotine, it's one of our... Oh, big yawn. Oh, that's lovely. Well done. They're more of a gleaner bat. They're quite interesting, their lifestyle. She's opening and closing her mouth because she's echolocating. Now once a bat has warmed up and raised the body level to over 32 degrees, they automatically begin to echolocate. Now she says, oh, I can't be bothered. I've gone back to sleep now. At least the eyes are open. Oh, but yeah, we'll have a little shout. They do it automatically. When I do talks and I go to shows and I show my bats, people say, I never thought they were like that. They've got furry coats and they've got cute little faces. Tell me more about them. You can't show a bat to the public who looks manky, unhappy and unhealthy. So I'm constantly striving to keep my bats as healthy and as happy as I possibly can, because then the public say, aren't they gorgeous? I want to learn about them. How can I look after them? How can I protect them? How can I encourage them? People don't realise what Mr. Cat does when he goes out at night through a cat flap. He is fascinated by the echolocation, absolutely mesmerised. They catch them where they emerge, drink or feed. Even a 3-legged cat with one eye can do it. It's not difficult. Simple solution. Mr. Cat must stay in the house all night, starting 1 hour before dark. It's no good getting him in when it's dark because it's over dusk and different species come out at different times during dusk. 1 hour before dark, Mr. Cat comes in.